This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Stanley.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-ending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy.
Stanley was happy.
And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Ooh. It's me now.
Yeah, this is your Stanley.
I'm Stanley. Bad Stan. So that's right there, Stanley. Right. What we doing with her?
Oh, that guy's like voice in your head. You're hearing the narrator.
I can't interact with anything in the office. It's my office, number 427. It's me. Number 427. Good old 427. Never late for work.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
But without my office, who am I?
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
So, sounds like a good day at work to me. This motherfucker narrator complaining and shit. You find out, and then Stanley found out it was a Sunday. The Stanley parable. I wanna go in here.
Yeah, no, that's everyone's like,
What?
that's the point of the game. It's like, just fucking wait.
Yeah, but I wanna go in here specifically. You can't. You can't go open doors now. 416, 415.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Yeah,
Fuck
there's
you.
a door on, isn't there?
I don't do what I'm told.
This
Fuck
was
you.
not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Stop trying to prove yourself right. Get out of my head. What's on that fucking board? The Stanley parable. Where do I want to go now?
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
I did. It's exactly what I did. How did you know I wanted to do that?
Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
Stop ragging on the room, dude. Jeez.
At this point, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nah. The room looks creepy. I don't want to go in there. What's in here?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Oh, you're bad, Stan.
I don't give a damn. That room was creepy. Looked like someone would murder or rape me in there. Preferably both. I'm not stepping on that shit. Don't jump. Do not jump from cargo. Do not.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Good job, Stanley.
Everyone thinks you're very powerful.
That was awesome. What? No. No. I took the easy way out, motherfucker, and you did.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
I hate Mondays. Oh, got some spilled coffee here. Whatever the fuck it is. Sign to a struggle.
Sense of struggle.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I'll go on.
Oh, you were easily whipped into submission, weren't you?
Go on, how are we dealing with? Angry rapist, murderer with a chainsaw. What we got?
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Do not alter anything. Whiteboard manager. 8 bird. What do we do here exactly? Meeting room. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. 9 mergers. Meeting. Financial panic meeting. We're broke Wednesday. Legal office. Boss inspection. Group. It's a bunch of bullshit.
Bunch of garbage.
Synergize papers. Fire paper guy. Delegates push for funding for R&D. The future was yesterday, tomorrow is now. Not cost efficient. You know, the fact that I took criminal psychology should really pay off. What are you talking about? I mean, that time they took me to court to be a criminal. Bi-quarterly post review. Review of a review. Debt sport. And the primer review schedule. Demographic. Spare between the teenagers. More water coolers. Work harder, work. Hard worker. Some shit going now. Everyone is unique. You most of all. Me? I feel like I'm being singled out now. This is where all your co-workers.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
I want to see what the fuck is happening. I know what's downstairs though.
So the fuck this place is all about.
Zombies.
Zombies. Executive bathroom.
Really would like to take a piss. I gotta take a shit. Take a piss in this ficus. Ficus?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number. 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Any signs of something bad could happen.
Fucking number thing on the door.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
What do you want for breakfast? Justice. They seen this room from somewhere.
It's like some fucking alien movie. It's like
Buttons, buttons. What's that say? Pink plus. Right.
this button.
This room. Fuck it.
You know what the stab button is?
Stab button.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Stanley Ipkiss.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Now, no one's going to label it a mind control facility if it is a mind control facility. I think that's the trap. Or maybe they thought
Why don't you willingly walk into the mind control facility?
Exactly, but maybe they thought I'd think that, and that's exactly what they thought I'd do, so maybe that is. But I know what I'll do. They'll never expect this. Not a trap. It's not a trap. I was right, it's not a trap.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. did he have the strength to find out?
Strength? Find out. Looks like goddamn fucking Professor X's dildo that he has in the house. Whatever he calls it. Cameras. Camera button. What?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Somebody escaped. All these people escaped. Maybe.
Lots of those are the same ones.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying. Motherfuckers had all this money to put into this, they could have fucking give me a pay raise, motherfucker.
Like you can't compete with money.
Doesn't translate well. Fucking do it. Eject.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Those sons of bitches. They fucked me. I got a 501k.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
You're special, Stanley. You're special.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Just turn it on. I want to see what happens when I turn it on. I gotta take a shit. Hello, Stanley. I can't let you do that, Stanley.
And when at last he found the source of the room's pump. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you. About me.
You bastard.
What all this means. I barely know where to start.
You son of a bitch.
What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone.
Oh, I see the buttons!
Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees.
Where's the
Oh,
tree?
dear me. What's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right
Where's
now?
the tree?
Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless.
Fuck you.
To see
Fuck
you
you,
made humble.
narrator.
This is not
Fuck
a
you
challenge.
in your ass.
It's a tragedy.
Where's the tree?
You wanted to control
Not gonna
this world.
panic. I'm gonna
that's
take this
fine.
easy.
But I'm
Okay,
going to
okay.
destroy it first, so you can't. Well, take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big
Good
boom
play.
and nothing.
Good play.
No ending here. Just
It's
you
on the
being
screen.
blown to pieces.
Blue
Will you
number
cling
one.
desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully?
There's number
Another
3.
choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, "Steady ever up."
We gonna die. Stanley.
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stanley just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ain't playing your shit no more.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it
Hey.
mean?
Hey,
Stanley
what does he
wondered
mean?
aloud.
Once again.
He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be?
Come on.
In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
There we
But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Ain't playing this shit no more, narrator.
Narrow who?
This is what I was like when I played it.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Fuck! I ain't take nah. Fuck this guy. I ain't scared of him. Bullshit.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Stanley did. Stanley did. But Stanley don't. Stanley won't.
At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Might have to start over. That don't look good. You gonna jump down there? I didn't do this.
Well,
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his
oh
demise,
shit.
he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to
Oh.
his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Ah.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated
No.
as the machine crushed
No, he
every bone
wasn't.
in his body,
No, he
killing
wasn't.
him instantly.
No, he wasn't. No. No, he wasn't, motherfuckers. No, he wasn't. Fuck those boxes. I don't give a shit. Stanley. The Stanley Parable.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
I am Stanley. Credits. I beat it.
Behind you on the wall.
I'm the perfect Stanley. That.
Yeah, what's that? Credits. Oh, it's just the credits.
Because I'm Stanley. I am Stanley. You hear that, you motherfuckers? I'm Stanley. What was it? 3 tries? 3 tries it took me to be a perfect Stanley. I wasn't a perfect Stanley. I went out of bounds. What's up there? Nothing. Something down there. Maintenance room. You see, now I'm curious how far the narrator will go. She do everything. You know what I'm saying?
You didn't even know what the fuck you're looking at.
That's all.
Telling you all the different endings of the games.
More endings, fewer endings. Less Stanley, more Stanley. The downs. Where's the? Is that the blue room that he was giving out about? Cheeky bastard. Meeting room.
It's on the wall right there, buddy. Thanks. Oh, those are different ways of going around the levels. Are they?
Must be. One option. Staircase. Ah, it's at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah, that's one of the rooms. Switches. Pull the switch. Can't do it. Can't pull the switch.
And we just found the no-no zone. This was the moment he knew he fucked up. Welcome to the Twilight Zone. Stanley doesn't get to move anymore. Stanley, what have you done?
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
I don't know, I think it's a trap. You want to step out there? Look
Look at that building.
It's so light and bright.
Don't mind it being bright.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen.
This is the end. This is my freedom
And Stanley
right now, baby.
was happy.